So this whole time I've been wondering, is this show actually going to kill off the Bad Batch or not? And I gotta say, after this episode, I don't know if I can remain optimistic, because it really seems like, because the whole focus of this episode was on Omega and how she is pretty damn capable of surviving on her own. I mean, she literally escaped from Cad Bane, of all people, and totally just evaded being recaptured by him the entire episode. All on her own, with no weapons whatsoever. She was able to just escape and evade this dude. So it's like, that in mind, it's like, she doesn't need the Bad Batch anymore. It's pretty damn clear in this episode. That was definitely the focus of this episode, is Omega's a bad bitch. She can take care of herself. So, you know, yeah, I don't know. I don't I don't want them to die, but I don't think I can remain very optimistic for very long, because I really think this show is going to kill them off at some point, or at least kill off someone, and that someone's probably either going to be Crosshair or Hunter at this point. It really seems like they might, so that's fun. But before I continue to rant, what is up, my dudes, and welcome back to my channel and my new setup. If you're new here, what's up? I am one creative ginger, and in this house we have salty takes and emotional rants over fictional media, all while wearing the most amazing makeup you have ever seen in your entire life, and that is a fact. So, does that sound like fun? Well, how about helping a bitch out by clicking that subscribe button, and if you find at least one of your brain cells enjoying at least a millisecond of this video, why not hit the like button too? So, this episode starts off with the Bad Batch trying to find out where Cad Bane went with Omega, because he just fucked off, right? All while Crosshair is just actively chasing them and trying to shoot them down, but eventually they're able to jump to hyperspace and escape and, you know, get the fuck out of there so they don't get shot down, right? So, yeah, Crosshair seems to be doing okay, which is good, because I was worried about him for a second, because it did seem like he was pretty fucked up, but apparently not. Apparently he can pilot a ship just fine and try to actively shoot down his batchmates at the same time. So, yeah, I guess he's doing good. So, that is good. I'm happy that he's okay, but, he's literally piloting one-handed. He still has a broken arm from the last episode, so, yeah, he's crazy. Anyway, Cad Bane takes Omega to an abandoned Camino facility, because that's where he is going to hand off Omega to the Kaminoans. But, yeah, while they're flying to this facility, Omega is able to convince Bane's droid to let her out of the cell so she can fix his leg, because it got shot off in the last episode. So she's able to power him down. She finds the communicator and escapes when Bane lands the ship, like, all on her own. She's totally sneaky, and I love that. But yeah, she's able to get in contact with the Bad Batch, but they can't pinpoint her location because the communicator's just a really weak signal, and they don't know where she really went, besides, like, maybe the star system that she's in. But yeah, so Tech tells her to find a room in order to boost the signal. So this whole time Bane is chasing after Omega, and then none other than Fennec Shand of all people shows up and starts to fight Cad Bane in order to get Omega away from him. Cad Bane just gets his ass handed to him pretty bad, and I think I know why, and it's not because it's convenient for the plot in any way. So, yeah, so my boyfriend was actually telling me this, and it's not technically canon, but, this episode kind of implies that this had happened at some point. So, yeah, so, apparently Cad Bane and Boba Fett had their own little Western duel, except they both shot each other in the head, and Boba was able to survive because his helmet saved him, and then somehow Bane was able to survive with a cybernetic headplate. And you can see, when you compare him in the Clone Wars to the Bad Batch, that he does have a plate over his head. He never had that in the Clone Wars. And, of course, in this episode, his hat keeps falling off a little too much. I mean, it makes sense for hat physics, but at the same time, they did that a lot to be like, hey, you guys know what this means, you know? Kind of implying that, you know, he and Boba Fett had a duel, you know, that they had dueled at some point. So that was pretty interesting, and I really like that. And it makes sense because he gets shot in the head, and then he needs cybernetics to fix that shit. So obviously he's not going to be in his prime, in his A game, you know. And he's also probably getting old too. So obviously he's going to be having a little bit of a tough time, you know? Anyways, Omega's able to find a control room and send out the signal for the Batch to come rescue her, and Fennec catches up to her, and we find out that Nala Se had hired Fennec to get Omega away from Bane because, you know, he was going to hand her off to another Kaminoan. I don't remember her name, but she gets fucking shot by Fennec, so she's dead. That was a little crazy. But yeah, so apparently why the Kaminoans want Omega back is because apparently she's an exact genetic copy of Jango Fett, which is just okay, I guess, but like, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But yeah, that's what Omega is. She's just an exact copy of Jango Fett, and they need her back because they need to extract the genetic material from her and then kill her for some reason, I guess. So yeah, so glad that Nala Se grew a conscience or something. I mean, I guess I'm glad that she's not force sensitive or anything, because that was definitely a theory a lot of people had. I didn't like that very much, and I'm glad the show has just been focusing on clones in general, because we actually learn in this episode that the clones, they all have genetic differences, which I don't know if it varies from like generations or just like batches in general, but like for instance, Rex has blonde hair. Not a lot of the clones have blonde hair, at least, you know, the factory settings, they don't have blonde hair. So that's definitely a genetic difference right there. So it's interesting that they all have like these genetic differences and shit like that, because in the Clone Wars, Yoda actually says that he can sense each clone's soul through the Force, and they all are very unique from each other. Like, he can differentiate each clone from themselves using the Force. And I thought that was really interesting, because yeah, they aren't copy and pasted from Jango Fett. They're all, you know, they all have genetic material from him, but they're all completely different from him. They're all completely different from each other. And it's really cool because, yeah, they're unique. That was the whole point of Clone Wars. They're just like, yeah, each clone's unique. They're not just, you know, these copy and pasted people that, you know, you can just throw away whenever you want. That's not the case. So I'm really glad that that's a thing, that they're all different from a genetic standpoint too, because at first it was just like from like a soul spiritual level, but like it's also in a genetic level, and I think that's really cool that they're just all different. I don't know, it's just really cool that that's a thing and that they're explaining it more. Like I'm glad that they're just ignoring the Force and like all that shit for a second, like all that Jedi shit, you know. I'm glad that they're actually focusing on clones, which makes sense because the show is about fucking clones, which I would like to learn more about the Bad Batch specifically, because I would like to know like how they were able to get their enhancements, because there's a part of me that thinks they're hybrids, so they have like DNA or different genetics from like different species. Yeah, I'd like to know more about how the Bad Batch was created specifically, and hopefully if we, because this episode focused on Omega specifically, and so I hope we get to see like an episode that focuses on Crosshair, and then like we're able to kind of see maybe like he has a flashback or something, like he's remembering shit, that kind of thing, to like, yeah, like figuring out how the Bad Batch was created, that kind of thing. I'd like to see that. Yeah, so obviously Omega escapes, and she doesn't know that Fennec's on her side, because Fennec kind of does a bad job of like convincing her that, hey, I'm on your side, you don't want to go back to Kamino because they're gonna do some bad shit to you, that kind of thing. But yeah, so she's able to escape, and she's able to contact the Bad Batch. She's able to she's able to put out the signal and have them come get her. And yes! And so now they're reunited again, like everything's fine, and it's very sweet, and she's back with her dads finally, and there's this really cute scene where like as she gets on the ship and she sees Hunter, 'cause she probably thought Hunter was dead to some point. Like, she didn't know, she didn't see him get up, so when she sees him just up and fine, just like has his chest all wrapped from getting fucking shot, you know, she headbutts him a little bit right where his bandages are, and of course he's like, oh fuck, ow, at first, but you know, of course she starts crying and she's really sad and, you know, relieved to be home with them, you know, that kind of thing. And then his dad instincts kick in and he's like, okay, yes, I must comfort this poor child. You know, and it's just, oh yeah, that was a cute moment. I love that. I was just like, yes, because she's definitely capable of being on her own and surviving, but she loves these guys and she really wants to be a family with them. They do another one of those promising that they won't leave each other thing, because, you know, that worked so well the last time, you know, remember that? Hunter gets shot and then Omega gets stunned and kidnapped, because yeah, that went so well the first time when they did that whole we promise to stay together forever, that kind of thing. But yeah, that, of course, that just reinforces my belief that either the Bad Batch in their entirety is gonna die, or maybe just specifically Hunter is gonna die in the end. So yeah, that's great that they did that again. But I'm glad they came back together and everything was fine and no one's dead yet. This episode was kind of had a weird vibe, because it just was focusing on Omega for once and everyone else was kind of just sidelined. But it was interesting. I really liked to see her doing her thing, and I liked that Fennec was hired to protect Omega, and that Nala Se, you know, does care about Omega and was just like, I don't want to see her die. Like, no, I want to see her go go explore the galaxy and have a bunch of dads, that kind of thing. So that was nice to see. Yeah, it was so cute to see how much Omega really has learned from the Bad Batch, because she's learned quite a bit. This is a kid thing, and because I thought this might have been something with her enhancement, like mimicking was her enhancement, but that's just something kids do, is just copy the adults in their lives, you know, that kind of thing. So that's what she was doing, and obviously she was learning and really absorbing this information, because she kicks ass in this episode, and mostly because we see her interacting with Tech and helping Tech a lot more with you know, his work and fixing shit and stuff like that. So it was interesting to see, you know, these last few episodes, her helping Tech, and then this episode being like, I can put that knowledge to good use, that kind of thing. So that was really cool that we got to see that she's been picking up a little more after Tech at this point, and I think that's really cute. But yeah, and then learning how all the clones are both unique in like just like a soul spiritual level, and then also genetic one, how they're all just very drastically different and unique from each other, even though they're all coming from the same genetic source. They're all different. So I really liked that. Again, I am glad that Omega isn't force sensitive, but I don't know, it just, her whole like enhancement, if you can even call it that, I don't know, because that's what Nala Se calls her, I think. Someone calls her an enhanced clone, like, because when Tech's like, oh, there's 5 enhanced clones, but Echo doesn't count because he's a regular clone, right? And the 5th one that was referencing Omega. Yeah, that's just like a weird inconsistency that popped up, because does that really make her enhanced? I guess technically, since all the clones have genetic differences, that her being a pure genetic copy of Jango Fett might make her an enhanced clone by default, but like, I don't know. It was just kind of weird. It was just so like meh, right? Because it was just kind of like that was the phase 2 that the Kaminoans were talking about, and I don't know. That just seems weird. Like, why can't you find a different genetic source, or like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know shit about genetics. I don't know. I'm not a Kaminoan. I don't know how their shit works. I think it would have just been cooler if she was like this clone who could like quickly adapt and survive in like a changing world, like very like quickly and shit like that, and which is why I thought, you know, that's why Nala Se let them escape in the first place, so like the Kaminoans could follow them and study Omega to see how she like would adapt and survive. Her just being a pure genetic clone of Jango Fett was kind of lame. I guess it makes sense because, you know, the Kaminoans kind of fucked themselves over somehow. I still don't know, like, yeah, why is Jango Fett's like genetic material deteriorating? Like, I guess it might imply that, you know, with how much they were fucking around with the DNA, that it slowly deteriorated that way because they were making all these genetic differences in these clones, that kind of thing. So maybe that's why it deteriorated, but how did they make her a pure clone, a pure copy of Jango Fett in the first place? I don't know how they did that. Like, couldn't they just do that again? Like, couldn't they just be like, oh well, Omega's off there, let's do it again? I don't know. Maybe they just were able to do it once, and that's why they needed her back. So that's weird. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still weirded out by that. But I guess it makes sense because that it's so just meh, just not like a huge thing, because I think they wanted to get that storyline out of the way, because now we're in the final stretch, we're in the second half. So yeah, I feel like maybe the show is planning something bigger and more heart-wrenching, and that's why the whole bounty hunter, or the whole bounty on Omega and why it was placed was just kind of like meh, you know, very mild, you know, because they were like, well, let's have this little drama, you know, have that whole, like, Bad Batch being dads and getting really worried about Omega and being like the whole, I promise not to leave you, that kind of thing, so when that comes back up again, it'll be very painful, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think they wanted to get that out of the way, so that's why it was just kind of like, you know, I don't know, yeah. I just hoped, I guess I was just hoping she'd have a more interesting enhancement, since that's how she was referred to in the beginning of the show. She was referred to as an enhanced clone. So, yeah. But yeah, so that's all I have to say about episode 9 of The Bad Batch. If you guys have any predictions, thoughts, and or feelings about this show, share all that good shit in the comments down below. So thank you guys so much for watching and getting to the end of my video. If you would like to support me, I sell all kinds of art on these 4 sites right here if y'all are interested in buying. If you would like to follow me on other social media, I have an Instagram, a Twitter, and a Tumblr if you'd like to stay up to date on my shenanigans. So if you like this video, why not hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and give that bell a ring if you would like to see more of my face every Wednesday when I post a new video. And don't forget to stay sparkly, my dudes!